Hey everybody, and welcome to my brand new top... How many are there in this list? Top 6 best side quests and contracts in The Witcher 3. Now I know there's no shortage of side quests and contracts, but some are definitely better than others. So I decided to compile my personal favourites into this must-play list. Now, I just had one big rule when making my list, and that was that the side quest or contract should have as little to do with the main quest line as possible, because I wanted things to be completely random. So with that said guys, let's get going. Wild at Heart is one of the first Witcher contracts available in Velen, and takes Geralt to the small village of Blackbough, where a hunter named Neelan went out on a hunt 5 days ago, and when he returned, his wife Hannah was missing. During the conversation, an odd woman, who is apparently Hannah's sister, butts in and basically says there's not much hope of finding her alive. She's a real optimist. It is rather strange that she doesn't seem too bothered about her sister's disappearance. Running around the village, Geralt talks to a few people who knew Hannah, and say that a huge pack of wolves roamed the village and they saw another lady leading Hannah into the woods. Heading into said woods, Geralt runs into a pack of wolves, and after swiftly dealing with them, the other woman strangely shows up and begs to stop looking for her sister, and even tries to bribe Geralt to tell Neelan his wife is dead. It almost seems like she is trying to move in on her sister's man. At this point you can agree and take the bribe, but who wouldn't want to find out what's going on here? Inspecting the area, Geralt comes across the remains of a human ripped into pieces, which is most likely Hannah, but instead of inspecting the corpse of the woman we are supposed to be finding, Geralt is more interested in a dog. After inspecting the dog, Geralt comes to the brilliant deduction that the dog murderer is most likely a werewolf. So it turns out the other woman is interested in a man that is a werewolf, and there's Taylor Lautner involved, and it's just a mess. Just stay away from it. Following the stench of werewolf piss, Geralt comes across a hunter's hut, which contains some very interesting notes, which basically ruins the plot and says that it is in fact Neelan who is the werewolf, and is locking himself in the hut when he changes so he cannot hurt anyone. well, that clearly worked out. Outside there's a trail of dried blood, which leads to an underground cave beneath the hut, which, if you're paying attention, is of course the lair of Neelan. Opting not to talk about the hairy wolf in the room, Geralt decides silver is a much more effective option. Before having the satisfaction of finally cutting down the beast, guess who shows her face again? She steps in and doesn't reveal anything that we couldn't already piece together about the situation, such as the werewolf's Neelan. She loves him, and she was the one who led Hannah into the woods where she was ripped to shreds by the said werewolf, so she could live happily ever after with Neelan. Man, this scenario is so juicy, it could have come from the Jeremy Kyle show.
Who's here to find out if he's fathered a 1-year-old child to his cat. Now, Gav says he hopes that he hasn't.
At this point, Geralt has the choice to do either the boring thing and step in and stop Neelan from killing... what's her name? And have another battle of fur and silver until Neelan is killed, and everyone lives happily ever after. Yeah. But the far more interesting option here is to let Neelan exact his vengeance against... Seriously, what is her name? I guess it doesn't matter anymore. Neelan is the one to really feel for in this situation, because even though he gets his vengeance, he can't go on without his wife, and asks Geralt to finish him off.
People think I'm going mad.
The Heart of the Woods. Now this contract sounds nice and pleasant. Maybe it involves... oh god, no, sweet Jesus, no. It's about murder. To be a successful Witcher, the first thing you need to do is know exactly what you are hunting. And who better to ask than the villagers themselves.
Tell you what, it's not any of your concern.
Exhaustive as descriptions go. What does this spirit look like? Anyone seen it for themselves?
No man alive has.
Great. Really helpful, all of you.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Geralt.
Only cowards.
Apparently this woodland spirit is unhappy because the villagers have strayed from the old ways, and somehow this really pisses off the spirit, according to the village elder. However, the warriors claim the spirit is always killed and it is nothing more than a common beast. So it seems we have two differing opinions. Where on one side we have a man who claims the spirit is a ruthless killer that terrorizes the village, and on the other side we have the village elder who claims the woodland spirit makes the village stronger and is simply angry they have strayed from the old path. Whatever that is. Going into the forest, Geralt finds the spirit trail, which leads him to another victim, and eventually a giant stone where the spirit has marked his territory. Using our knowledge of all things monsters, Geralt concludes the woodland spirit is in fact a very old Leshy. Heading back to the village, Geralt now has a choice to side with either the hunter or the village elder. Now, both decisions are equally viable, at least to me, so I will cover them both. If you decide, you know what, I like the way that hunter with the tiny head deals with his business, and the first thing you have to do is find out who in the village the Leshy marked, because as long as they live in the village, the Leshy cannot be permanently killed. Old P-Brain the hunter is convinced it's the village elder, but we all know things aren't really as they seem in The Witcher, and in fact it turns out to be old P-Brain's love interest, that is the marked one. Forced to vote her off the island for good, the task now falls on Geralt to venture back into the woods and deal with the Leshy. Geralt must first destroy the Leshy totems to weaken and draw out the monster, and boy is he pissed at your trash and his stuff. The woodland spirit, I have to say, is one of the hardest fights I had in the game, as he is incredibly strong, can take hits like a prize fighter, and has the ability to call on the help of creatures like wolves and crows. After a fight that lasted close to 10 minutes for me, finally the beast is slayed. Returning to the village, awaiting your victory parade, instead, we are greeted with a bloodbath with half the village slaughtered. What the hell happened here, man? I was gone 5 minutes. It turns out old P-Brain is responsible for everything, and has taken it upon himself to rid the village of the spirit's accomplices. Talk about psycho. Taking a step back now, if you decide to go with the village elder and try and make an offering to the woodland spirit, you have to venture back into the woods, kill a few wolves so you can burn their hearts on an altar as a sacrifice. And apparently the woodland spirit accepts your offering, I guess. However, old P-Brain still wants a fight, even after all of this. And of course, Geralt is caught in the middle of it, like every fight in the game. Some men just can't help themselves. The Phantom of Albergue is a Witcher contract located in Arenborn, I think. The contract issuer is a man named Yorn. He tells Geralt that the monster is a wraith that haunts the lighthouse on the island of Albergue. Apparently the light at the lighthouse just stopped burning one night. Yorn sent 2 men to see what happened, but of course, they never came back. And to make matters worse, the lighthouse keeper has gone missing. Honestly, Geralt, no one would blame you if you just walked away now. Go outside and get on with your life. Once on Albergue, Geralt notices there is a strange mist covering the island. As Geralt makes his way through the mist, more and more wraiths will continue to show up. Now, you could go full Fred from the Scooby Gang and constantly fight them off, but I prefer the Shaggy and Scooby approach, and just run away. Fighting through the mist, Geralt reaches the Lightkeeper's house, and it turns out the Lightkeeper, Mikjal, is trapped in his house because of the wraiths. Mikjal gives Geralt the key to the lighthouse so we can finally get to the bottom of just what's going on here. In the lighthouse there are some rather interesting notes, with instructions for Mikjal to put out the lighthouse's light so ships crash on the rocks near Albergue and that they can have the pick of the cargo. It seems our new friend has a few secrets he's not telling us about. It turns out we aren't the only ones who know about these shady dealings, because there's a curse on the lighthouse, where a penitent is haunting the island, and the only way to get rid of it is to get Mikjal to light the lighthouse. Of course, Mikjal isn't exactly keen on this idea, and who can honestly blame him, but Geralt is a rather hard man to say no to. After venturing back outside with Mikjal, the penitent finally shows. He's not exactly happy to see. This fight, I would have to say, is one of the toughest fights, basically because the penitent is invincible until Mikjal lights the lighthouse and gets rid of the strange fog. To make matters worse, the penitent summons multiple wraiths to be a pain in the backside as well. So the start of the fight is basically Geralt jumping and diving around, avoiding the penitent and picking up his powerful friend until that goddamn light is lit. Seriously, what's taking him so long? Finally, once the lighthouse is lit, the penitent can be killed. Not that you necessarily kill him, at least not the first time around. Once Casper the not-so-friendly penitent is dead, things can finally go back to normal.
This is very romantic.
Fuck off.
Well, as normal as they can be, I guess. Geralt leaves our dear lighthouse keeper with one last piece of advice
Come back here.
and heads off for his next adventure.
Started.
Oh, seriously, come on! Byways. Now I'm sure most people who have played The Witcher 3 have been and visited this town while first setting foot in Velen, only to be chased off by a group of very high-level ghouls. Seriously, these guys suck. After dealing with these pests, Geralt discovers there's actually a group of survivors still left in the village. And according to these villagers, a group of Nilfgaardian soldiers came to the village looking for treasure, and the ghouls killed them. Now, I'm as skeptical as the next man, or Witcher, because it seems Geralt is having a hard time believing this story as
This will
well.
be the first time ghouls came to help out a village in trouble. At this rate, they'll be taking jobs off the notice boards before long.
Quite well on it.
Using the skills we learned from watching CSI.
No. We've been there, done that, move it on.
Geralt discovers the smell of blood leading away from one of the corpses, which leads to one of the huts, shacks, or just plain shitholes of the village. It turns out the villagers are still sticking with the original story. It takes a very well-devised threat from Geralt that makes no sense at all.
Listen, you. If you don't tell me everything you know, you could all die. Understand? Is that a burden you can live with?
For them to finally spit out the truth. It just so happens that there are elven ruins beneath the village that have been scavenged for treasures to sell. Talk about really ancient antiques roadshow. Now, as we all know, stories like this in The Witcher have a tendency to end happily ever after. Wait, hang on. That's not quite right, is it? They usually end with monsters, theft, and murder, and this one is no exception. Down in the elven ruins, the villagers found more than gold and trinkets, because something evil lurks down there. The villagers tried to cause a cave-in to bury the monster, but it didn't turn out well for them. I think it's best if Geralt explains.
You dug through to the monster's lair, then buried the entrance, but the Nilfgaardians opened it again to look for treasure. Beast killed the Black Ones and returned to its lair. You wanted to bury the corpses, but their stench lured ghouls to the village. Now I'm here. Sound about right?
'Tis as you say. Yes.
The inside of the hut is covered in blood, and there's a ladder leading down into the ruins. But more importantly, there is monster fur in there. And it's an, vampire fur. Yeah, that. Geralt must now head down to the elven ruins and into the vampire's lair and face the beast. Get ready to spam some Queen, because this bat's come to play. It is definitely best to prepare for this fight with some blackbud potions and vampire oil. Otherwise,
You're gonna have a bad time.
after a lot of time, trial, and error, seriously, why isn't it just called a vampire? Anyway, whatever it is, it's dead. Geralt is alive, and another great contract is completed. Now this one is a personal favourite of mine, from a comedic standpoint anyway. In the village of Lurch, Geralt comes across some bandits who are cooking a spit roast. Spit roast. And this is where we meet one of the more challenged characters in the entire game. Seriously, this guy is like one on volume setting the whole time. Now, being the stand-up guy we know Geralt to be, he steps in and has a polite conversation with the fine gentleman. And they see the error of their way and move on. After their talk, Geralt puts his invisible swords away, and really, if he was smart, he would have just walked away. But no, instead he sticks his foot right in it again and starts talking to...
Me, I'm Yontek of of these parts. I was close.
According to our
But
enlightened
where's they
new
now?
friend,
I
the
dunno.
villagers have been taken by...
Took by the piggy magic, must be.
Curious to what this piggy magic is, it turns out that the pigs are indeed magic, and Geralt needs to do some more investigating. But that's easier said than done, especially when your only lead is this guy. Okay, so the short of it is that Yontek here found a key to the
Opens the hog hut, that does.
hog hut. The rest of the villagers all went to the hog hut, and that's where they all returned into pigs. As painful as it is to leave such a person, Geralt must now go and investigate the
Right.
hog hut. It turns out there's quite a lot of interest in the hut, because there are several bandits both outside and inside the entrance. After Geralt quickly dispatches with the unwelcomed, and using Yontek's key, enters the portal. Inside the
Came through here.
ruins,
was something
there are a dozen of footprints and more enchanted pigs. And guess what? The pigs can communicate. And this is why I like this quest so much, because it's just plain bonkers. Or porkers. After using more of our CSI skills, Geralt finally figures out just what the hell is happening here. Okay, so here it
We're in a
is.
temple.
So Yontek finds a key, gives key to villagers. They go to the hog hut, they see it's filled with treasure, they take said treasure, however the treasure is cursed and turns them all into pigs, and the only way to remove the curse is to take all the pigs and the treasure back to the hog hut. Sound about right? Geralt returns to the village, and after saving the day again, and doing his best to explain the situation to Yontek, Geralt goes off to hurry up the villagers, and Yontek goes and gets the gold. From there, the quest turns into a bit of an escort mission, trying to get the villagers to the hog hut and protecting them from a group of knackers. Once everybody in the gold are finally back at the hog hut, the curse is reversed and everyone is returned back to normal.
I'm myself again.
Now the villagers seem a little bit cross with poor old Yontek. I can't imagine why, but Geralt, being the good guy he is, suggests maybe just exiling Yontek might suit everyone better. And I mean everyone. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, my personal favourite quest or contract in The Witcher 3, in wolf's clothing. The location for this quest is in Skellige, near Lofoten, where there is a garden dedicated to the god Freya. But there's something a bit hairy about this situation. It's a werewolf.
Not again!
The quest. It's about a werewolf. Okay, good. Geralt first talks to one of the priestesses in a temple near the gardens. She explains that there was a man named Morkvarg, who for all accounts was a top-notch bloke. Anyway, Morkvarg was said to only fear one thing, the wrath of the gods. So to prove everyone wrong, he decided to raid the goddess's garden. During the raid, one of the priestesses tried to stop him, which didn't end well for her. Using her last breath, she cursed Morkvarg, turning him into a werewolf, and binding him to the garden so even if he is killed, he returns to Rome. The priestesses also mention a man in a nearby town who witnessed Morkvarg's raid, so it's off to visit our new friend, and well, he doesn't really add much to the story that we didn't already know, except that when Morkvarg, after transforming, killed his men, they turned to ash in his fangs. So that's about as much as we're going to learn from these two. It's time to take action, see what all the fuss is about. Inside the gardens is a cave that serves as Morkvarg's lair, where he's just having a little chat with, is that Sir Daniel? Apparently Morkvarg is very interested in a key that opens the chapter house in the gardens. Interesting. Now Morkvarg is decently strong. I mean, you know, he's nothing special, but having to battle him repeatedly can be rather difficult, if not annoying. Every time you beat him, you get to have a little conversation. Through all the growling and uncomfortable noises, Wolfbug begs for Geralt to free him from the curse, and promises... did he say reward? Okay, now good sir, you have my attention. There's not much Geralt can do for Wolfbug at the moment, so... Now that the pest is temporarily gone, I think it's time to have a little look-see for that key Wolfbug was so interested in. It turns out there's a cave beneath the cave. Anyway, Geralt has a witch's hunch and bets the key is down there. To get down to the key, Geralt has to play with a sluice in the garden to open the correct gate so he can go down to the cave. After finally figuring out the sluice, Geralt can get into the cave and get to the chapter house's key. Once out of the cave, Geralt can explore the garden and stumbles across a building where Wolfbug has broken the door down. Now this is where things get interesting, because inside the hut is what looks like Wolfbug's leg chained down? What? Oh god, guess who grew back? Anyway, Wolfbug explains that some hunters tried to capture him, chain him down and lock him in the cabin in an attempt to rid the gardens of him. Well, their plan certainly worked. Well, you know, we're done here. Anyway, now that Wolfbug is dealt with, we can finally use the key and do some sweet exploring of the chapter house. And what do we have here? Wolfbug's journal? This could be juicy. And boy, Wolfbug doesn't disappoint. Besides from reading about his quiet nights in, Geralt discovers that our old friend from the town who witnessed Wolfbug's transformation was actually a part of his crew and has been lying to us the whole time. I think it's time we pay him another visit. But before we do... Upon returning to our friend, we tell him straight up that he's lying and we don't believe a thing he says. Now you can either fight and kill him, or if you resist these urges, you learn that our friend is in possession of a wolf fang pendant, and it was him who cut Wolfbug with it, turning him into the werewolf we all know and love today. After convincing him to hand over the pendant, he wants but only one thing in return, a promise, that no matter what happens, we can't let Wolfbug leave the garden. Now all that's left to do is head back to the garden and decide what to do with Wolfbug. Once dealing with Wolfbug for one last time, Geralt can decide to either feed him a piece of his own flesh, tricking him, as this is against the curse and kills Wolfbug for good. But without Wolfbug, there's no treasure. Now, we all know that everyone wants that sweet treasure, and I have a foolproof way to get it. First of all, give Wolfbug the fang, and he turns back into his good old pillaging self. Now Geralt must get Wolfbug to tell him about the reward he promised, and it turns out that a loan shark in Novigrad has this last treasures, and it's all ours. Now that he's told us about the treasure, there's not much use for Wolfbug, is there? Excuse me now, when I make a promise, I keep it, so when Wolfbug is nice and turned around, I stab him in the back. You know, more high ground everyone. And it's finally done. Wolfbug is gone, the priestesses have their garden back, and Geralt has all the treasure he can want. At least for a wee while.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching my video. Now there are literally dozens and dozens of quests and contracts in The Witcher 3, and chances are I missed one or two that you perhaps think should have a spot in my list. If that's being the case, I'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment and maybe, you know, I'll discover something new about The Witcher 3 that I didn't already know. If you like this video and want to see more of them, please feel free to hit that subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it. And if you want to see more Witcher videos that I've done, well, I did one on Gwent, and I've done one on the new expansion, Witcher 3 Heart of Stones. Thank you guys so much for watching, have a good one.